what we're doing in these exercises is placing our attention on whether it's on the breath or on the body. We're placing our attention into the present moment. Practicing what I call, and a lot of people call, present moment awareness. Awareness of the present moment. And it sort of fits into this category of sayings that you may have heard, sort of like, be here now. Be present. The power of now. Whenever I hear these things, I always find it kind of annoying. It's like these aphorisms. Be here now. Be present. What does it even mean? And I think, on one hand, of course, it means, paying attention instead of like having your mind somewhere else. Paying attention to what you're doing instead of... The thing is, it's very easy to say that, but we know from meditation that it's extremely difficult. You can't just say to your mind, okay, do this. Be present. Focus on your breathing. Because the mind goes, okay, I'll do that for about 3 seconds. And then I'm going to do something else. But this present moment awareness thing, it turns out, actually, not surprisingly, given all these sayings, it is kind of important and helpful and useful. But I think it just bears a little bit of unpacking to sort of try and work out, what do we really mean by this stuff. I think it sort of helps to try and distinguish this sort of present moment awareness as a state of mind. It's a kind of a state of consciousness whereby we are fully absorbed just in something that's happening right now, as opposed to when we're thinking. So thinking is this incredibly important skill that we have in our mind, whereby we can evaluate things, judge things, decide what we like, what we don't like, what we trust, what we don't trust. It forms our beliefs, our opinions. It allows us to remember things. I mean, there are many aspects to this mental processing piece, this thinking piece, which is so important in our lives. But that is one aspect of our mind. And that's one state of consciousness, is thinking, judging, evaluating, problem solving, getting worried about things, hoping for things, all that stuff. So that's thinking. So that's a state of mind I think you're probably pretty familiar with. And then there's another state of mind, which is when we're just fully absorbed in that moment where you're just fully absorbed simply in the sensation, perhaps, of breathing before you think about it. I think, we are actually familiar with this. For example, and this doesn't work so well necessarily if you're a musician, but if you're not a musician and you're listening to a piece of music and it's the first time you've ever heard that piece of music, and let's just say hypothetically you like it, and you just allow yourself to completely relax and allow the music to wash over you. And in that moment, as the music is just washing over you, you are just completely aware of the next note, and the next note, and the next note, and the next note, as it happens. And so your awareness is fully absorbed. Or you might be in a restaurant, and again, if you remember what those things are. Anyway, we used to go to a restaurant, and you might have a meal that you've never had before, and there might be a taste, a sauce, and all of a sudden there's a moment when you just taste it, when you are just simply aware of this sensation of the taste, and whether you like it or you don't like it. But before you judge it or you evaluate it or you decide if you like it or you don't like it, or what you think it's made of, or what it needs, or any of that stuff which is thinking, evaluating, judging, there's a moment before then when you are simply tasting. And there's just that simple awareness of the taste before your mind kicks in. Smell is really good. So if you smell of cut grass or smell of a rose, smell is not something that you really need to think a whole lot about. I mean, you might end up judging it and evaluating and deciding you like it or you really don't like it or whatever. But there is a moment, for example, when you smell a flower and you are completely just experiencing that smell without needing to evaluate it, judge it, decide about it, try and describe it or anything like that. You simply are aware of it. You simply notice it. So in the breathing, there's a moment when you can allow yourself to simply be fully absorbed in that moment by that breath. And in that moment, you are practicing and you're experiencing and becoming more familiar with present moment awareness. And then, of course, the mind kicks in and you're very familiar with thinking, and then you might sort of notice, oh yes, I'm thinking. And then you return your attention and see if you can allow yourself to just be fully absorbed in the present moment, whether it's the breathing or your body or a candle flame or a piece of music or whatever it is that you're meditating with, is that you just see if you can switch from thinking just briefly and allow yourself to be fully absorbed by the present moment. So two different states of mind. So there's the thinking piece and there's pure awareness. I'm told that the Tibetan word for meditation is the word gom. And it really translates to becoming familiar with. And I think that's a really useful way of perhaps thinking about meditation. Is that in this act of meditation, we are becoming familiar. And we're becoming familiar with maybe a couple of things. One is our own mind. So as we meditate, we place our attention in the present moment and then we start thinking. And so you start to become more familiar with how your mind works. You're becoming more aware of your own thoughts as they happen. And even if you don't catch them immediately as they happen, you're building this awareness to start to become more aware generally of your thoughts. You suddenly notice, oh yeah, I'm thinking. And of course, given that we've established that it's relatively flawed, starting to become more familiar of where it goes. And having that agency and that ability to be able to notice where it's gone and then move it somewhere else. But we're also becoming more familiar, slowly, millisecond by millisecond sometimes, but we're becoming more familiar and more comfortable with this state of mind of just pure awareness. Even if it's just for a moment here and there. Becoming more aware of just being able to see the moment as it is without the mental piece. In Buddhism, the sort of the high point or the black belt of Buddhism, if you like, or the thing they are ostensibly trying to attain is what they call enlightenment, this state of enlightenment. And one definition I've heard for enlightenment is that enlightenment is the complete awareness of life without mental modifications. The complete awareness of life without mental modification. So it is, this awareness thing might seem trivial. It might be like, okay, what's so big about experiencing the present moment without thinking about it, without judging it, without deciding whether I like it, don't like it, if I have an opinion about it? What's so great? And what I'd say is a couple of things. One is it's incredibly relaxing. It's beautiful and it's going to make you feel better. Definitely. I mean, that exercise we just did where you're just placing your attention on your body, taking your attention away from the jibber jabber inside your mind, even if it's just for a moment here and there. It feels great. It's very relaxing to be freed from the jibber jabber. So that's one aspect of it. But another aspect, potentially, is that actually as you start to become more familiar and you rest your attention in this present moment and become more familiar with it, you might discover that there's more there than you realize. And that actually the jibber jabber of our mind, constantly wanting to evaluate, to think, to worry, to judge, to have opinions and beliefs and all this stuff, That gets in the way of us being able to experience reality simply as it is. And some people say that experience of reality as it is before the brain gets in the way may have something profound and extraordinary to offer. Hence, these best-selling books by Ram Dass, for example, I think it was back in the 70s, was Be Here Now. One of the first of its kind, in fact. And then, of course, more recently, Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now. This sense of trying to sell us on this idea, this slightly amorphous idea, that there is something really important, valuable, and powerful in simply being able to bring our attention out of our jibber-jabber mind and into the present moment.